She called the cops and screamed, "Arrest him!" But I was on my own land. I froze for a moment, clutching my coffee mug, staring at the woman in a bright pink blazer who looked like she thought she owned the world. My wife, Mia, stepped out behind me, her arms crossed, eyes sharper than any gun. "You're trespassing," she said calmly. But there was fire in her voice. Karen didn't listen. She stomped closer, waving a crumpled paper in my face. "This is an HOA notice. You can't live here anymore. You need to pay up or leave." I laughed, a little too loudly, shaking my head. "This is my property. You don't get to decide that." She smirked, dialing her phone like she'd already won. "I'm calling the police," she hissed. Within minutes, uniformed officers pulled up, and I could see her whispering to them, pointing at me like I'd committed a crime. My heart pounded, not from fear but from knowing she had no idea who she was messing with. Mia whispered, "Let's see how she likes real law enforcement." I raised an eyebrow, and she gave me that half smile only she could. Years ago, before settling here, she'd trained elite tactical units. Most people didn't know. And Karen? She had no clue. The cop stepped onto my lawn, eyes scanning the perfectly trimmed grass and my children playing near the porch. Karen started her speech again, loud and angry, claiming I was a threat, claiming I'd refused to follow rules. But the moment she reached into her purse, I knew something was about to happen, something she would never expect. The officers looked at Karen, confused, glancing between her and me. "Ma'am, do you have any official paperwork for this HOA claim?" one asked, brow raised. Karen fumbled, pulling out a stack of papers that looked suspiciously photocopied, with uneven stamps and crooked signatures. "It's legit. They just don't understand the rules," she stammered. Mia stepped forward, calm but commanding. "Officers, you might want to check county records. This HOA doesn't exist. That land, this property, belongs to us, fully registered. She has no authority here." Karen's face went pale, and for a split second, I saw the real villain beneath her entitled act. She tried to recover, waving her phone. I can call the sheriff myself." But before she could dial, I casually held up my phone. The camera was recording everything. "Funny," I said. "The sheriff knows all about this. You might want to hear from him first." Karen's hand shook as she realized the officers were now skeptical. My younger son ran past, giggling, holding a small toy tank. Mia winked at him. We had planned this subtly. All along, we had collected evidence, recordings, property deeds, security cameras, enough to expose any fake authority. Then came the first shocking moment. One of the cops leaned in, whispering to Karen, "Ma'am, impersonating law enforcement is a serious federal offense." Karen's eyes widened, her voice cracking. I was just..." And before she could finish, her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. I didn't answer, but Karen's face fell completely. It was a law enforcement alert. Someone had already flagged her calls as suspicious. She was realizing, right in front of everyone, that her little empire of intimidation was crumbling. Karen's voice shook as she dropped the phone, fumbling to keep control. You have no proof," she barked, looking around at the officers who were now whispering among themselves. I stepped forward slowly, holding my phone up, the security footage playing on the screen. Every fake notice she'd left on my door, every threatening text to my family, it was all there. The lead officer's eyes widened. "Sir, this footage shows harassment, intimidation. She even tried to impersonate a law officer," he said. Karen's hands trembled as she muttered, "It's just a warning. You don't understand." Mia moved closer, voice soft but sharp. "We understand perfectly. And now, everyone here will see exactly who you are." She tapped the screen, and suddenly, the footage from our hidden cameras played live, showing Karen sneaking into our driveway at night, planting fake HOA notices, peering into windows. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. My son tugged on my sleeve. Daddy, is she going to get in trouble? I nodded. Yes, buddy. She can't scare us anymore. The officers called in backup quietly, confirming Karen's history of false complaints and intimidation against neighbors. Every threat she'd made, every fake call, it was unraveling faster than she could react. Then came the second twist. One of the officers looked at me with surprise. Sir, your wife, she's trained SWAT units? I nodded, and Karen's eyes widened as she realized that Mia wasn't just calm. She was a force the likes of which Karen could never have imagined. The officers exchanged looks, clearly impressed and uneasy. Karen's phone rang again. This time it was a recorded call from the county sheriff, confirming the illegitimacy of her HOA. She froze completely, her face pale, hands shaking. Her empire of fake authority was collapsing in real time, and the humiliation was just beginning. Karen's hands shook as she backed toward the street, her voice rising into a scream. You can't do this to me. I'm enforcing the rules. But the officers ignored her, focusing on verifying every piece of evidence we had. Neighbors had begun to gather, drawn by the commotion, and they were snapping pictures and videos with their phones. The power Karen thought she had was slipping faster than she could process. Mia stepped forward, calm as ever. This isn't about rules. This is about you breaking the law, threatening my family, and lying to the police. Her words cut through the chaos, and I could see Karen realizing that her reputation, the one she'd built on fear, was evaporating in front of dozens of witnesses. Karen made one last desperate move. She tried to storm back toward my house, yelling about trespassing and fake notices, but a neighbor blocked her, holding up a phone with her threats recorded. We've seen everything, the neighbor said firmly. You can't do this to anyone else. And then the biggest twist hit. A convoy of black SUVs rolled down the street. Out stepped federal agents with badges, moving quickly to secure Karen's house. She screamed, flailing her arms, trying to argue. This is a mistake, they can't. But it was too late. Every one of her fake documents, her threats, and her impersonation attempts were now evidence for the FBI. Mia put a hand on my shoulder, whispering, You did the right thing. This isn't over for her. I nodded, watching Karen being handcuffed in front of her own home, her screams drowned out by the quiet satisfaction of justice. The neighbors clapped quietly, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Even as Karen was led away, she shouted one final line that no one would forget. You'll regret this. You think you've won. But we all knew the truth. This was the moment her whole world of fake power collapsed, and ours, our family, our land, was safe. Karen sat in the back of the FBI SUV, her face twisted in disbelief, while agents carefully went through her house. Every corner, every drawer, every shelf revealed more of her obsession with control. Fake letters, forged documents, even a binder labeled Neighborhood Watch Rules I made up. Back at our house, I reviewed the footage again with Mia. Can you believe she thought she could intimidate us? I said, shaking my head. She smiled faintly. Some people never learn. They think fear is power, until the law proves otherwise. By mid-afternoon, news crews started arriving. A neighbor had posted a live video online, and the clip of Karen screaming at the cops while we calmly stood on our lawn went viral. Comments poured in, people calling her entitled, manipulative, and worse. Our phones buzzed constantly as messages from strangers thanked us for standing up. The next twist hit unexpectedly. One of the agents walked up holding a thick folder. Sir, you may want to see this. Inside were emails Karen had sent to other neighbors, threatening fines and fake arrests if they didn't comply with her HOA rules. But the shocking part? Some of those emails named high-ranking local officials as co-conspirators in her fake HOA. Karen's web of lies wasn't just against us. It was bigger than anyone realized. Our small fight had unearthed a network of intimidation, and her downfall was about to expose it all. Mia put a hand on my arm. This isn't just about our land anymore. We're about to shake things up. Even as the sun dipped lower, I couldn't help but notice Karen's face on live feeds. She looked small, humiliated, trapped by the consequences of her own obsession. And deep down, I knew this was far from the end. The next morning, the neighborhood buzzed like an electric wire. Karen's name was everywhere. News articles, social media, even local radio. Her fake HOA empire was officially under federal investigation. I stepped onto my porch with a cup of coffee, watching neighbors whisper and point toward her house still cordoned off with FBI tape. Then came the first move of our own subtle revenge. Mia smiled, holding up her phone. Time to show the world what happens when someone messes with the wrong family. We posted the full footage of Karen's harassment, the fake notices, the screaming, the police confusion, and within hours, it had millions of views. People were enraged on our behalf, calling for justice, calling for accountability. Karen, now in custody, called the news from her holding cell, trying to spin her story. I was just enforcing rules. They lied about everything. But no one believed her. The evidence was airtight. And just when she thought she might find sympathy, the second twist hit. Federal agents released documents showing her previous attempts to intimidate other homeowners. This wasn't just a one-off. It was a pattern, and she couldn't hide it. One neighbor, a retired vet, came over and whispered, "You know, some of us wanted to confront her ourselves, but you did it legally and better." I nodded. That was the point. Justice, but classy, clean, undeniable. Mia wrapped an arm around me. This is bigger than our property. We showed that even the loudest, most entitled person can be held accountable. By the evening, Karen's story was trending nationally. Every post, every article, every viral clip cemented her downfall. And deep inside, I knew the final twist was yet to come. One that would humiliate her completely and make sure no one forgot what happens when you abuse power. Karen's court appearance was like a spectacle. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and she tried desperately to maintain her composure. I didn't do anything wrong," she screamed at one point, but every word she uttered was drowned out by the mounting evidence against her. The judge went through the documents. Fake HOA notices, forged emails, videos of her harassment, and even her own admission while on the phone with agents. Every attempt she made to twist the story fell apart under scrutiny. The twist came when the prosecutor played the hidden camera footage of Karen sneaking onto my property at night. Neighbors gasped, some even laughing quietly, knowing she had humiliated herself for months. Then the final shocking reveal. Karen's own HOA binder contained a list of every neighbor she'd tried to intimidate. The court read aloud emails she had sent, threatening fines and false arrests. The crowd leaned in as her actions were exposed publicly, and Karen's face drained of color. She realized everyone, neighbors, news crews, even her so-called allies, now knew her real nature. Mia whispered to me, "This is it." The last piece, I nodded. With the judge's permission, we presented the property deeds, the sheriff's verification, and the SWAT training certificate Mia had earned years ago. Karen tried to interrupt, but the judge held up a hand. "Enough," he said firmly. "This ends now." By the end of the hearing, Karen was ordered to pay fines, was banned from any neighborhood association activities, and faced charges for impersonating law enforcement and harassment. The courtroom erupted in murmurs of disbelief and satisfaction. Our small family had legally and decisively won. The day Karen was taken away, the neighborhood felt lighter, almost like a weight had been lifted. Kids played freely in the yards. Neighbors waved as we walked past, and even the police officers who had arrived months ago smiled at our family. Our home, our land, was ours again, untouched by fear or fake authority. Mia wrapped her arms around me, whispering, "We didn't just protect our property. We stood up for truth, for justice." I nodded, watching our kids run toward the swing set, laughing without a care in the world. That laughter, that freedom was the real victory. The final twist lingered quietly. News outlets continued to cover Karen's downfall. But the most powerful moment came when letters arrived from neighbors she had once threatened. They thanked us not just for defending our home, but for inspiring them to stand up too. Some shared their own stories of intimidation, now ready to confront it because they saw justice done. I looked at Mia, then at our children, and felt a deep sense of pride. "I didn't fight for this country to be told I can't live on my own land," I said softly. She smiled, squeezing my hand. The message was clear: property, family, And freedom weren't just words, they were worth defending fiercely. Karen's empire of fear had collapsed, her lies exposed, and our family had not only survived but thrived. And somewhere deep inside, I knew this story would remind everyone watching that no matter how loud the entitled get, the truth, and the law, always has the final say.